Let's start off with the Texas Rangers. It has been a while since we talked about the Texas Rangers. It has been, what, over 3 months since we last sat here on this podcast and had to worry about the Mariners facing off with the Rangers. In case you forgot, last time the Mariners played the Rangers, doomsday essentially for the Mariners season, went down to Arlington at the first week of June and got swept, and it wasn't necessarily close. These two ball clubs, though, since then have gone in remarkably different directions.
They have. The Rangers have totally plummeted back to earth. Back then, it looked like they were going to run away with the West all season. That's not the case anymore, and it was never more prevalent than when they lost 8 in a row for when the Mariners got up to even playing field with the Rangers, because that's what, remember everybody was tweeting out, like Jordan Schusterman tweeted out how to lose a division in 10 days, and it was that tweet of the Rangers losing all those games in a row, and it was the Mariners winning all those games in a row, and then they got neck and neck. Yeah, it's been totally polar opposite seasons in the second half for both of these teams, because that's what's happened to the Rangers. Meanwhile, the Mariners have been just about as hot as anybody in the second half, and highlighted by their unbelievable August to put them in the position they're now in.
Overall, the Rangers since August 16th, when they still sat in first place of the American League West, they've gone 12-20 since that point. And their overall stats, I guess, what really jumps out is they have a 5.5 team ERA since that. It's been no surprise if you open social media and see the stats where the Rangers have blown 32 of their 60 save opportunities this season. You're like, well, that probably makes sense. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. The offense has not been quite as dynamic as they were early. Overall, start to finish, the Rangers have had one of the 3 best offenses in baseball. But over that shortened stretch when their pitching has struggled, they've only got a 103 WRC plus in that sense. And that was insanely boosted, thanks to Lyle pointing this out to me before the show so I could fix it. They raised their WRC plus over this stretch 6 points with their 15-run outing on Wednesday. So credit to them for, I guess, turning it around. They've managed to hit better here recently. How's it going to be, though, against this pitching staff that, unlike the other two they're going to face, is going to be still rolling with a 5-man rotation?
Well, they've got the easier half of the Mariners rotation. If you're looking from the Rangers side of it, obviously it's unfortunate for the Mariners, but the Rangers are not going to face either Luis Castillo or George Kirby in this series. It's going to be Bryce Miller Friday, Logan Gilbert Saturday, Brian Wu Sunday. And I'll say, I think Brian Wu's a lot different now than he was the first time he faced the Rangers during his debut. So this is definitely going to be a challenge for both sides, but especially for the Rangers, who are going to have to face a pitching staff that's as good as one they've seen in some time now.
What makes me a little bit more optimistic, like I did just mention, the Rangers' offense has come back down to earth. Some of those real breakout candidates at the beginning of the season, like, you remember we were sitting on here and wondering how Travis Jankowski had like a 130 WRC plus, and it just made no sense because he's a career bench guy. Well, since August 16th, Lyle, you'll be happy to know he has come back to earth. His WRC plus in that stretch is, do you want to guess? 4?
I was going to say 7.
Yeah, well, you were close, but he's not the only one. Guys like Josh Smith, who's a valuable role guy, Ezekiel Duran, another breakout guy this year, 52 WRC plus over that stretch. And then a couple of notables. Adolis Garcia has had some strikeout problems and overall just offensive problems since that August 16th, 58 WRC plus. And another guy who was really a breakout guy this year, Jonah Heim, guy people were really high on, a 55 WRC plus. So some of those guys who really rounded out the lineup, who made them one of the most complete lineups in baseball, have really come back down to earth a little bit. And it'll be curious to see, do they turn it on here for the final 10 games of the season? Or is it going to be more of the Corey Seager show, which, in case you haven't missed, yeah, I guess theoretically he cooled off in that stretch, Lyle. His WRC plus went down from his, season high of, around 190 all the way to 141. So he's cool. He's cooling off.
Cut his paycheck in half.
Yeah.
So there's sides to both of there's a side to both of these coins for the Rangers, just because a lot of their hitters have come back down to earth, but you look at their team success as a whole at the plate, it's still good, especially their last 2 weeks. Since September 10th, this is still the best team in baseball offensively by WRC+. And since September 1st, they're fourth, sitting at 118. So I don't really know how to judge the Rangers offense these days. There's a part of it saying, okay, Duran's cooled off, Heim's cooled off, Adolis has been injured and is cooled off. But there's another side of it that says, oh, collectively, they're still hitting. So how does that fare against, say, Bryce Miller on Friday, who has struggled to get swings and misses as of late?
You know these guys are going to be motivated to make up for their starts back in that series in June. In case you forgot, both Brian Wu and Bryce Miller started in that disastrous Mariners series at the beginning of June in Texas, and they're going to get a chance to redeem themselves in the exact same spot. I mean, Wu went only 2 innings in his first career start, 6 earned runs. Bryce Miller went 2 1/3, 8 hits, 7 earned runs. You would have to imagine it's going to be a little bit better than that, and that there's going to be some extra juice knowing, hey, these are probably the last 2 starts we'll have to make this season, Bryce Miller and Brian Wu. They'll each get one more after this Texas series, but this could be it for them this season, pitching in general. They might get an opportunity in the bullpen during the postseason, but that's if the Mariners make the postseason. So you know they're here to empty the tank down in Texas, especially with their fastballs, and see if we can finally get that like amped up velocity, especially for Brian Wu, and see it maybe jump back up to his June levels.
I feel like I'm a little more interested to see what Bryce Miller does than Wu. I'm interested to see both of them, don't get me wrong. I don't love the fact that Bryce Miller has not gotten swings and misses through most of his last couple of starts. Look at his last 3 outings. Against the Reds, he had 5 whiffs. Now, he went 5 innings, 1 earned run in that start, but we did not walk away from that outing saying he looked sharp. Against the Dodgers in his last start, 5 1/3 shutout. By the numbers, on paper, really good. He got 6 whiffs. I don't know. That does not spell success against a Rangers lineup that's been as good as anybody's throughout a lot of the season, and a lineup that's gotten really hot over the last couple weeks. Now, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, because in the Rays start that Bryce Miller made, the start that sandwiched those 2 aforementioned outings that I was talking about, he went 5 innings and gave up 5 earned runs, but he got 15 whiffs in that start. Usually swings and misses lead to success. For whatever reason, for Bryce Miller in the last couple outings, he's been lucky at points, but those starts that have featured less whiffs, earned runs wise, have been much better than the start where he was getting more strikeouts. So I hope there's a way he can kind of combine both, where he can get some of these Rangers hitters to strike out and also put together 5 strong innings, giving up 2 earned runs or less. But I think I'm more interested to see what Miller does than Wu. We can get to Wu here in a second, but Wu has gotten swing and miss.
Bryce has had some starts this year, though, like out of nowhere, he will just start getting guys to swing and miss. I mean, you mentioned that last Rays start. How about his first Rays start where he had the blister and he had to come out? It was the game, Lyle, you remember it, before they really started turning it around in July. What was it, June 30th? He goes out there 3 1/3 innings, and the exact number was 20. Was it like 20 whiffs in 3 innings? Like pretty ridiculous stuff from Bryce Miller. It was a shame he had to come out of the game, but he was just chewing up the Rays lineup. And then he did the same thing later, a month and a half later down in Anaheim, where he only went 5 innings, but he was getting the Angels to swing and miss at everything. So like, it's there for Bryce Miller. He can do it. And again, I'm thinking that they can see on the horizon that their workload is coming to an end, and they can just go and unload the tank. The pitchers understand what's at stake here. Like, failure is not an option against the Texas Rangers. I'm curious to see how Bryce is going to mix it up. Is he going to try and just force his fastball down the Rangers' throat again? Or is he going to just try and junk it up a little bit more and just keep them off balance? So I don't know. I think this is interesting. And I think this is definitely the series I'm the most nervous for, because I just don't know what to expect from the starters.
It's going to set the tone, too, because the fact you don't have Luis and Kirby going in this series also parlayed with this will determine a lot this weekend, because if you go out and lose 2 of 3, you're way behind the 8 ball. You've got way more ground to make up all of a sudden than you would if you win 2 of 3. And they're going to need either Bryce Miller or Brian Wu to truly bring it this weekend, because they have to win one of those games. So I think this series is going to tell a lot. And like you said, the fact they have both of the rookies going in this series, yeah, it's going to be pretty fun to watch. And it's going to be interesting at the very least. Now, Brian Wu on the other side, he's gotten swing and miss. If you remember Brian Wu in his first start against the Rangers, That's not the Brian Wu we're seeing now. Look at what he's done over his last few outings. Honestly, since the month of August, this guy's had a 2.27 ERA since August 1st. And his last couple of outings against the Angels and then the A's, yes, two inferior teams. But he had 20 whiffs against the Angels 2 starts ago, career high. Then he had 14 at Oakland. So give Brian Wu credit for a guy that is way past the innings limit that not limit, but total anybody expected him to go. He's still really brought it, even if it was against teams that aren't very good. He has turned in some really awesome starts in his last couple outings.
And he's gotten better and he's evolved as well. We've talked about it here on this podcast on how his pitch mix has really evolved over the course of this season. And it's going to be different than what the Rangers saw early on. I'm very fascinated with how Brian Wu is going to approach this start, what his stuff is going to look like, and again, how much velocity he has. We've detailed how his velocity has gone down this season, but can he bring it back up for 2 starts? Can he get a little bit extra juice for 2 starts and help his stuff play up a little bit better? Because Brian's going to have to start against the Rangers twice now. The team that lit him up in his major league debut, he's going to get to face them in his final 2 starts of the season. How much is he going to adapt between start to start? I mean, they're going to have to win one of his starts. If they're getting in, they got to win one of those Brian Wu starts, which means he needs to give them a chance to win. So this is fascinating and a very, very good opportunity for Brian here at age 23 to be leaned on to pitch them into the playoffs.
Now, here's the caveat with Wu when talking about how good he's been since August, because not only has he had the 2.27 ERA since the start of August, but for the month of August as a whole, 1.69 ERA, so far here in September, 2.87. 2 pretty awesome months. Now, the caveat, here's who he's faced. He has faced the Angels twice, the A's twice, and the White Sox once. The Rangers are going to be a little bit of a different test than those 3 teams that he has faced over the last couple of months. I think he's made some awesome progressions throughout the year, but this is going to be as battle tested as Brian Wu has been in his young big league career, because you said it. They can't drop both of those starts, and they certainly cannot lose all 4 combined starts that him and Bryce Miller are going to make. You have got to win at least 2 of those outings. So what is it going to take for him to continue what he's built over his last couple outings, find ways to get the Rangers to swing and miss, continue missing bats, and can he go 5 strong innings? I think that's about a fair bar to set for both Wu and Miller, right? I don't think you're looking for 6, 7, 8 innings out of those guys. I think if you can get 5 strong, 5 and 2, you take it.
I think so too, especially when you've had both those off days to help your bullpen over the last week. Let's look at the Rangers rotation now, Lyle. We did mention it at the beginning, but both the Astros and the Rangers have shuffled their rotations to face the Mariners. They're pitching guys on short rest just to face the Mariners. So the Rangers are essentially, I was curious who they were going to start, because it was their number 5 spot in the rotation coming up on Sunday. And I was curious, I think it was Cody Bradford who started in that spot a week ago, and he wasn't very good, but they're just going to cut out the 5th starter here for this series. And it's going to be Nate Eovaldi starting on Sunday. Dane Dunning's going to start on Friday. Jordan Montgomery is going to start on Saturday. So that's Nate Eovaldi has not been very good since he's come back. He was injured for a lot of August, and he had his best start since coming back, at least innings wise, against the Red Sox. He went 5 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, but in the 3 previous starts in September, I mean, we're talking an inning and a third, 4 earned runs, 2 1/3 innings. He just went 2 1/3 innings, against the A's, where he had to leave that start, and then 3 1/3 innings, 2 runs against the Toronto Blue Jays. It just hasn't really been there for Eovaldi. He's really kind of fallen apart here down the stretch. And I wonder, and he dominated the Mariners last time he faced them in June. He had 1 hit allowed through 6 innings. 6 innings, 7 innings. Oh, that was the one stat I didn't write down. Fun.
He threw a lot.
Yeah, it was a really good start. So I'm curious to see how the Mariners hit a depleted version of Nate Eovaldi when his velocity is down, his off-speed stuff isn't as sharp, and he's just tired.
Some of it may have to do with the injury. The question I have for you is, this is confirmed, right, that's their weekend rotation? Because if you were a fan that looked up on the MLB app, it currently still says Dunning's Friday, TBD Saturday, TBD Sunday.
I'm going to pull up the Texas Rangers PR. I'm about 99% sure.
I believe you. And I think I saw the same tweet. I'm just helping out any fans that might use the MLB at bat app a lot.
Dunning Friday, Montgomery Saturday, Eovaldi Sunday.
Okay. So there we go.
Jordan Montgomery, though, has been pretty good. He is quite an acquisition by the Rangers. One of the acquisitions that's actually really worked out for him so far.
Which is funny because he's not a guy that gets a whole lot of swing and miss. Jordan Montgomery basically thrives off of getting weak ground ball contact, but credit to him. He's at a 4-WAR season, by the way, which I would not have expected, especially when you look at his peripherals and his whole profile. He's a good pitcher. He doesn't feel like a 4-win pitcher to me, but since he's gotten traded over to Texas, he's been pretty nails for those guys, I've got to say. 3 ERA is sub 3.3, sub 3.3 ERA for the whole by the year as a in total. And also, he had a rocky start to September where he gave up a lot of earned runs in his first 2 outings of the month. He went 6 earned runs against the Twins and 8 earned runs against the A's. But he's peaking upward at the right time because Montgomery's last 2 outings, he's gone 14 scoreless. So which version are they going to get? Because again, it's been a good move. He was great in August, and his last 2 starts have been really good. So you would figure Montgomery's going to turn in a good outing. But he's had his bumps in the road, too.
He's not faced the Mariners this season. He did spend most of the season with the Cardinals. He did not face the Mariners when the Cardinals came to Seattle way back early on in the season. And then Dane Dunning is the guy who gets the ball on Friday for the Rangers. Overall in the season, he's been pretty good, a 3.78 ERA in 23 game starts. He has 1 game against the Mariners this season. It was a pretty good one back on May 10th. 6 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs. 5 strikeouts. Another guy, though, has been kind of shaky recently. So, and again, these guys are all going to be pitching. Think about this. All these guys are going to be pitching on 1 less day of rest when they face the Mariners the second time. 1 less day of rest because of the Rangers shaking up their rotation to get these guys in line against the Mariners. So now officially for the first 6 games of this stretch, you're going to get Dunning, Montgomery, Eovaldi, Verlander, Framber, Javier. It's a pretty good, pretty stout 6-game stretch.
Yeah, buckle up. Although I will say for Dane Dunning, his second half's been pretty bad. This guy was lighting the world on fire in the first 3 months of the year. Since July, it's been pretty tough sledding for the guy. 4.91 ERA since July 1st. 5.06 ERA in the month of July. 4.01 ERA in August, where he was a little bit better. He's got an ERA over 6 here in September. Now, that's from a blow-up start he had a couple weeks ago. He's actually had some better starts in his last couple, so same thing. But his profile is somewhat similar to Montgomery's, only from the right-handed side, where he's not going to strike a whole lot of guys out. He thrives on getting ground balls and weak contact. But unlike Montgomery, Dunning has had more problems in the second half than Jordan Montgomery has. So if you want to look at this glass half full for the Mariners, you say, oh, well, we're getting Nate Eovaldi and Dane Dunning, but those are 2 guys that have not pitched well at all. You should capitalize.
Thank goodness, I would say, from a Rangers side, that they made that trade with the Cardinals for Montgomery, and then they got Chris Stratton as well. Those have been 2 of their, I would count, 3 good pitchers in the second half. Martin Perez, by the way, I will note, they moved him to the bullpen. He's actually been pretty good in the bullpen. He's only allowed, he hasn't allowed a run over his last 11 innings. But I'm looking at their ERA since August 16th, since their slide started. I mean, if we're talking guys who have been good, I would say Jordan Montgomery's been good. Jose Leclerc has been good. Scherzer was fine, but he's hurt. He's out for the year. And then Chris Stratton's been good. He's got an ERA of 2.5. But that's it. Like, literally the rest of the Rangers pitching staff has been atrocious since then. We want to talk about some atrocious guys. Let's go to their bullpen. Their bullpen has been an abject disaster. Let me just drop this stat. We keep talking about it, so I'm just going to throw it back out there. The Rangers have only converted 28 of 60 saves this season. Think about that. 28 of 60 save opportunities they have converted. That's less than 50% for a major league bullpen where they all throw hard. Just bizarre. Just absolutely bizarre. And it's been in large part to guys like Aroldis Chapman being awful here down the stretch. Brock Burke has given up 13 earned runs over his last 11 and 2/3 innings pitch. Will Smith has given up 11 earned runs in just 10 and a third innings pitch. We think the Mariners relievers struggle at times. The Rangers, this is where the actual struggle bus is.
So it sounds like, man, Rangers are having bullpen problems. They're going with a 4-man rotation. They could use a starter. They should call Kansas City and see if Cole Reagans is available.
Oops.
Yeah.
At least they did trade for a good, upstanding citizen in society in Aroldis Chapman,
who's been terrible, by the way.
Yeah, he did. I'll give it to him. At the beginning of the season, he really had me. I was like, oh, he's throwing 102 again. He's flexing on guys after he strikes them out. I'm like, oh wow, he's back. But then we look here, and down the stretch, his average fastball velocity is, where is it? Only 98.5 miles an hour, which if Aroldis Chapman's averaging under 100 miles an hour on his fastball, he's in trouble. That sign of Aroldis Chapman struggling, throwing a ton of off-speed pitches, and his fastball is under 100 miles an hour. Watch out.
And even a guy like Brock Burke, even though the Rangers as a team were not good last year, Brock Burke was awesome. They relied on that guy a ton. Not the case here in 2023. Just another sign, by the way, that shows you how fickle bullpens can be and why the Mariners doing what they've done the last 3 seasons, you don't see.
Since August 16th, Lyle, the Rangers have blown 13 of 17 save opportunities. So even think about this, Mariners fans, as long as there has not been 27 outs on the scoreboard, the Mariners will have a chance in all 7 of these games against the Rangers. Until they prove us wrong, the Rangers have just been so inept at holding leads down the stretch. The depth of their bullpen just really isn't there. The key in this series, you got to get the starters out. Get the starters out, which these guys haven't really, outside of Jordan Montgomery, haven't shown the ability to stay in games long. Once you get those guys out and get into that bullpen, then the Mariners bats might wake up. You might be bitching about the Mariners bats here in the month of September. I think they'll look pretty good against this Rangers team.
They have to. So we did a social media segment this week outlining 3 keys to the series against the Rangers. We did it over at Pagach's Pub 85, by the way. And we headlined what the 3 biggest keys for this team are this weekend. I'd say number 1 of all of them, you have got to hit this bullpen. You have to, for every reason we just aligned. And I should say outlined and put in front of you. Combined with that these games are probably going to be close. Considering these 2 teams are fighting neck and neck for a wild card spot and a division spot, these games are going to be close, and they're both playing for a ton. So when it comes down to the end of the games, and you look at Mariners bullpen versus Rangers bullpen, you have to take advantage of that bullpen. You have got to hit that Rangers bullpen, especially if games are going to be close late, because that's going to be the difference maker.
Couple injury notes on the Rangers. We did mention Max Scherzer is out for the season. He tore, I forget exactly the muscle, a teres major. Didn't know that was a muscle. Probably should have paid attention more in school. Then again, we went to Arizona State, so why bother? Also, Josh Young came back this week and immediately hit a home run. Also, he was an all-star this year for the Rangers. That's not a good sign for the Mariners. A righty masher. Then Adolis Garcia came back on the same day as well. This will be probably about as healthy as the Rangers have been for the most part over this stretch run of the season, sans Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer, which if they were in this rotation, I would be quite a bit more concerned, but I think we're doing okay at this point in that sense. Going to be a fascinating series, though, against the Texas Rangers.
Again, I keep saying it, but buckle up. Maybe it's me trying to talk to myself and tell myself to buckle up, but I bet you there's listeners and fans out there that feel the exact same way I do and are trying to breathe in, breathe out, and get themselves ready. The other key, by the way, we didn't even talk about Logan Gilbert in this segment. They better win that start because we talked about the 2 rookies a ton and how much they mean to this series. You've got to win that Logan Gilbert start. And Logan should have a bounce back outing after what he did against the Dodgers, which was not a good start. That's the game you got to win. You have got to put yourself in good position by getting that start and getting that win on Saturday.
And one of Logan's best starts of the season came against the Rangers. You might remember this all the way back in May. 6 2/3, he struck out 10, walked 1. I believe he had a no-hitter in that game into that 6th inning. He was doing pretty well in that game, and I think he'll be looking forward to facing this Rangers lineup again.